My name is Chloe Hayes. I'm 35 years old, and I thought caring for my grandmother during her final years meant honoring her wishes after she passed, until my cousins looked me in the eye at the will reading and said, "Grandma always loved us more." What happened next? Proved that while I was spending every weekend helping my grandmother with groceries, doctor appointments, and household tasks, my cousins were plotting to steal my inheritance by forging legal documents they thought no one would question. Before I tell you how one phone call from a handwriting expert changed everything my family thought they knew about my grandmother's final wishes, and how forensic analysis exposed a fraud so obvious it led to criminal charges, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you want to hear how two words, handwriting analysis, silenced an entire family and made my cousins realize they had just confessed to felony fraud in front of witnesses. Let me take you back to where this story really begins. My grandmother, Rose Hayes, was the matriarch of our family, and one of the strongest, most independent women I've ever known. She lived alone in the same house for 45 years, a beautiful three-bedroom colonial worth about 300,000 that she had maintained meticulously throughout her widowhood. Grandma Rose was 89 years old and still sharp as a tack, but she was beginning to need more help with physical tasks like grocery shopping, house maintenance, and getting to medical appointments. As a social worker living just 20 minutes away from Grandma's house, I was in the best position to provide regular support. My cousins, Derek and Kelly Mason, lived 2 hours away and visited maybe 3 times a year for holidays and special occasions. For the past 3 years, I had been visiting Grandma every Saturday to help with whatever she needed. We would go grocery shopping together. I would help with light housework and yard maintenance, and I would drive her to doctor appointments when she felt uncomfortable driving herself. "Chloe, you're such a blessing," Grandma would tell me during our weekly visits. "I don't know what I would do without your help." But more than just helping with practical tasks, I genuinely enjoyed spending time with Grandma. She had fascinating stories about her life, strong opinions about current events, and a wonderful sense of humor that made our time together feel like visiting with a friend rather than fulfilling an obligation. Derek and Kelly, on the other hand, seemed to view visits with Grandma as a chore to be endured. When they did visit, they would spend most of their time talking about their own lives and problems, rather than engaging with Grandma about her interests and experiences. "Derek and Kelly are busy with their own families," Grandma would say diplomatically when I asked why they didn't visit more often. "You've always been the one who made time for family." Last year, Grandma began talking more seriously about her estate planning and what would happen to her possessions when she passed away. "Chloe, I want you to know that I'm leaving you the house," she told me during one of our Saturday visits. "You're the one who's been taking care of me, and you're the one who appreciates what this house means to our family." I was honored but also emotional about Grandma discussing her death. "Grandma, I hope we don't have to think about that for a long time," I replied. "I'm 89 years old, sweetheart," she said practically. "We need to think about it. I want to make sure my affairs are in order so there's no confusion or fighting after I'm gone." Grandma explained that she had already drafted a will with her longtime attorney, Harold Peterson, who had handled her legal affairs for over 20 years. "Harold has everything documented properly," she assured me. "The house goes to you, and Derek and Kelly will each receive monetary bequests from my savings and investment accounts." "Have you told Derek and Kelly about your decision?" I asked. "Not in detail," Grandma replied. "But they know that you've been the one taking care of me, and they should understand that the house goes to the person who's been most involved in my life." I felt some concern about potential family conflict over the inheritance, but I trusted that Grandma had made thoughtful decisions about her estate based on her relationships with each of us. 6 months ago, Grandma's health began declining more rapidly. She was still mentally sharp, but she was becoming frailer and needed more assistance with daily tasks. I increased my visits to twice a week and began helping with more personal care tasks like medication management and meal preparation. Derek and Kelly were aware of Grandma's declining health but didn't increase their visits or offer additional support. "I know Derek and Kelly are busy," Grandma would say when she needed help that they weren't providing, "but I'm grateful that you're here." During this time, Grandma mentioned several times that she was confident her estate planning was in order and that I shouldn't worry about anything when the time came. "Harold has all the documents, and everything is clearly spelled out," she would assure me. "You just focus on spending time with me while we still have time together." 2 months ago, Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep after a brief illness. While I was devastated by the loss, I was also grateful that she hadn't suffered and that I had been able to spend so much quality time with her during her final years. The funeral was beautiful, and Derek and Kelly seemed genuinely grief-stricken by Grandma's passing. Despite our different relationships with Grandma, we all loved her and would miss her presence in our lives. 1 week after the funeral, Harold Peterson, Grandma's attorney, called to schedule a will reading for the following Monday. Mrs. Hayes left detailed instructions about her estate. Mr. Peterson told me over the phone. I'll need all the beneficiaries to attend so we can review her final wishes and begin the probate process. I arrived at Mr. Peterson's office on Monday morning, feeling sad but prepared to honor Grandma's wishes about her estate distribution. Derek and Kelly were already there when I arrived, looking more serious and formal than I had ever seen them. Thank you all for coming, Mr. Peterson began. I've been Rose Hayes' attorney for over 20 years, and I helped her create comprehensive estate planning documents to ensure her wishes would be carried out clearly. He opened a file folder containing what appeared to be legal documents. However, Mr. Peterson continued, looking confused, there seems to be some discrepancy in the documentation I have. What kind of discrepancy? Derek asked. Well, I have the will that Mrs. Hayes and I created together 18 months ago, Mr. Peterson explained, but Derek and Kelly have provided me with what they claim is a more recent will, dated just 3 months ago. My heart started racing. Derek and Kelly had a different will? Let me review both documents, Mr. Peterson said, putting on his reading glasses. He first read from the will he had drafted with Grandma 18 months earlier. According to the will I prepared with Mrs. Hayes, the house at 1247 Maple Street goes to Chloe Hayes, along with all furnishings and personal effects. Derek and Kelly Mason each received $25,000 from Mrs. Hayes' savings and investment accounts. Then he picked up the document Derek and Kelly had provided. According to this more recent document, however, the house goes to Derek and Kelly Mason jointly, while Chloe Hayes receives $5,000. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. The will Derek and Kelly had provided completely reversed Grandma's original intentions. Where did you get this second will? I asked Derek and Kelly directly. Grandma gave it to us the last time we visited, Kelly replied. She said she had been reconsidering her estate planning and wanted to make some changes. When was the last time you visited? I asked. About 3 months ago, Derek answered. Grandma called and asked us to come see her because she had something important to discuss. She told us she had been thinking about the house and realized it would be better for the family if Derek and I inherited it together, Kelly added. She said you were young and could buy your own house, but we had established families that needed the stability. The explanation sounded plausible, but something felt wrong about it. Grandma had never mentioned reconsidering her estate plans to me, and 3 months ago she had still been talking about leaving me the house. Mrs. Hayes never mentioned creating a new will to me, Mr. Peterson said, looking troubled. In fact, she specifically told me that she was satisfied with her estate planning and didn't anticipate making any changes. Maybe she wanted to handle it privately, Derek suggested. She might have felt uncomfortable telling you she was changing her mind about Chloe getting the house. Mr. Peterson examined the document Derek and Kelly had provided more closely. This appears to be properly formatted and signed, he said slowly. But I'll need to have it authenticated before we can proceed with probate. Authenticated how? I asked. Handwriting analysis, witness verification, that sort of thing, Mr. Peterson explained. When there are competing wills, especially ones that dramatically change the estate distribution, we need to verify their authenticity. Derek and Kelly exchanged glances that I didn't like. Is there a problem with authenticating it? I asked them directly. Of course not, Kelly replied quickly. Grandma signed it in front of us. We can testify to that. But something about their body language suggested they were nervous about the authentication process. Mr. Peterson scheduled a follow-up meeting for the following week, after he had time to have the competing wills examined by experts. I want to be absolutely certain we're honoring Mrs. Hayes' true final wishes, he told us. Given the significant difference between these two documents, we need to be thorough. Over the next week, I couldn't stop thinking about the situation. It seemed strange that Grandma would completely reverse her estate planning without mentioning it to me, especially since I was seeing her twice a week during the period when she supposedly created the new will. I decided to do some investigating of my own. First, I called the neighbors who lived on either side of Grandma's house to ask if they had seen Derek and Kelly visiting 3 months ago. "I don't think I've seen Derek or Kelly at your grandmother's house since Christmas," Mrs. Anderson, the next-door neighbor, told me. And I would have noticed because I always keep an eye on Rose's house to make sure she's safe. Mr. Johnson, the neighbor on the other side, gave me the same information. "I haven't seen those cousins of yours in months," he said. "You're the only family member I see there regularly." The neighbors' accounts contradicted Derek and Kelly's claim that they had visited Grandma 3 months ago to discuss the new will. I also reviewed my calendar and realized that 3 months ago, I had been visiting Grandma twice a week, and she had never mentioned Derek and Kelly coming to see her. By the time we returned to Mr. Peterson's office the following Monday, I was convinced that something was very wrong with the will Derek and Kelly had provided. "I've had both documents examined by a handwriting expert," Mr. Peterson announced when we were all seated. Derek and Kelly looked nervous as Mr. Peterson opened his file. "The handwriting analysis has revealed some significant concerns about the authenticity of the more recent will," he continued. "What kind of concerns?" Derek asked, his voice tight. "According to the expert analysis, the signature on the recent will appears to be a forgery." Mr. Peterson said clearly. "The handwriting patterns don't match Mrs. Hayes's authentic signature from her medical records, bank documents, and the original will." The room went completely silent. "Additionally," Mr. Peterson continued, "the witness signatures on the document appear to be fraudulent as well. I contacted the individuals listed as witnesses, and they have no recollection of witnessing Mrs. Hayes sign any documents." Derek and Kelly were staring at the table, unable to meet anyone's eyes. "Furthermore," Mr. Peterson said, his voice becoming more serious, "the paper and ink used for the recent will are inconsistent with documents that would have been created 3 months ago. The forensic analysis suggests this document was created much more recently." My heart was pounding as I realized what Mr. Peterson was telling us. "Are you saying that Derek and Kelly forged the will?" I asked directly. "I'm saying that the document they provided appears to be fraudulent," Mr. Peterson replied carefully. "Whether they created it themselves or obtained it from someone else would be a matter for law enforcement to investigate." Derek finally looked up from the table. "We didn't forge anything," he said weakly. "Grandma gave us that will. Maybe there's been some mistake with the analysis." "The handwriting expert has 30 years of experience in forensic document analysis," Mr. Peterson replied. "There's no mistake. This will is a forgery." "What happens now?" Kelly asked, her voice barely audible. "Now I contact the district attorney's office to report suspected will fraud," Mr. Peterson said firmly. "Forging estate documents is a serious crime that carries significant penalties." "We can explain everything," Derek said desperately. "There must be some misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," I said, finding my voice, "is that you thought you could steal my inheritance by forging Grandma's will." "Grandma always loved us more," Kelly said, making one last attempt to justify their actions. "She must have wanted us to have the house." "If Grandma wanted you to have the house, she would have left it to you in her real will," I replied. "Instead, she left it to the person who actually took care of her." Mr. Peterson concluded the meeting by explaining that the original will, the one he had prepared with Grandma 18 months earlier, would be submitted for probate as her authentic final testament. "Mrs. Hayes's true wishes will be honored," he assured me. "Chloe will inherit the house, and Derek and Kelly will receive the monetary bequests specified in the authentic will. Unless, of course, their criminal activities result in them being disqualified as beneficiaries entirely," he added ominously. 3 weeks later, Derek and Kelly were arrested and charged with multiple felonies related to will fraud, document forgery, and attempted theft. The investigation revealed that they had used online templates to create the fake will and had practiced forging Grandma's signature using samples from birthday cards and letters they had kept over the years. They had never visited Grandma 3 months ago as they claimed. Instead, they had created the fraudulent will after her death, hoping to steal the house inheritance that they felt they deserved more than I did. The defendants clearly believed they were entitled to a larger inheritance than Mrs. Hayes had left them, the prosecutor explained during their arraignment. Rather than accepting her wishes, they attempted to defraud the estate and steal property that had been lawfully left to their cousin. Derek and Kelly both eventually pleaded guilty to the charges in exchange for reduced sentences, but they were required to pay restitution and court costs, and they forfeited any right to inherit from Grandma's estate. 6 months later, I moved into Grandma's house, which I now own free and clear. Being in the house where I spent so many Saturday afternoons with Grandma brings me comfort and keeps her memory alive in a way that feels meaningful and appropriate. The most important lesson I learned from this experience is that some people will go to extraordinary lengths to take what they believe they deserve, even if it means committing crimes and betraying family trust. But I also learned that truth has a way of revealing itself, especially when someone is foolish enough to forge legal documents that can be scientifically analyzed and verified. Derek and Kelly thought they could steal my inheritance by creating a fake will, but they underestimated the sophistication of forensic document analysis and the thoroughness of estate attorneys who take their responsibilities seriously. The woman whose cousin said Grandma always loved us more learned that love is demonstrated through actions and presence, not through assumptions and entitlement. And the family members who thought they could forge their way to a 300-0 inheritance learned that attempted fraud carries consequences that far exceed any money they might have gained. Grandma's house now stands as a testament to her real wishes and to the genuine relationship we built over years of shared Saturday afternoons and mutual care and respect. The people who tried to steal her legacy ended up losing everything, while the person she chose to receive it continues to honor her memory by living in the home she wanted preserved in the right hands. Have you ever discovered that family members were plotting to steal your inheritance? How do you handle people who feel entitled to things that were never meant for them? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about family fraud, protecting legacies, and learning that forensic science can expose even the most carefully planned deceptions.